My people, the goal with Season 3 and forward is to make the world of Gamma Haven a living, breathing universe that is a reflection of the community. The city is awake even in between episodes. We want a way you can world build, add lore, and roleplay with those you share the setting with. Discord is a great place to make this happen. RolePunk is our Discord role-playing game for the community. Looking into our RolePunk rooms should feel like glimpsing into Haven City itself. With simple rules and more of that P&D design, RolePunk tasks you with living your role. You punk. Show us a slice of your life. Flesh out drama between your characters so when you cross paths on the grand stage, it's personal. Or even clash. But that can get ugly. More on that later. There is a PvE and PvP element. Let's talk about PvE. Player vs. environment is a means of role-playing and world building with your allies and enemies. Players will have access to every district in the setting, represented by in-character role-playing rooms in our Discord server. We encourage you to inhabit any location your character would and roleplay your day-to-day. Rolepunking. To rolepunk, it is to share glimpses into your character's everyday life, dealing with trivial things, trivial life events, suspended but revolving around the grand main story arcs. Share with us the events that take place in your day-to-day, throughout the day, or go back and forth in real time with other players, creating a one-of-a-kind scene. Trivial matters. RolePunk is mainly for world and character development and competitive role-playing. Objectives you achieve in RolePunk will have little impact on the grand scheme, but more so your current Discord role-playing situation. Save your grand endeavors for the main stage if you want better results. Punk type role. Each punk type is responsible for a specific aspect of the ecosystem. You want your role-playing topics to reflect your punk type's role. These will be posted for reference. Only by building on your role are you made eligible for a chance at rewards, though you can still roleplay about anything you want. Rewards will go to players who can roleplay the ups as well as the downs in their life. Playing into your opposition's hand also makes for good drama, so it's encouraged. Alright, let's talk about PvP, punk vs. punk. Because conflicts can break out between characters amidst the drama, you will have a way to stand your ground or overcome. Challenge and accept. If someone challenges you for any reason, they must state their goal and that they are challenging you. For example, my goal is to raid your home. I challenge you. Or, my goal is to generate bad publicity on your law firm. I challenge you. The duel begins after you state your own goals and accept the challenge. The first turn will be the person who managed to get their message on the floor first. Objective. The objective is to roleplay and take turns attempting to write your opponent into a corner, giving them no possible way for the character to overcome your narrative. Anything you write goes, as long as it makes sense and is justified by your character's abilities and punk type. You also cannot take actions on behalf of anyone but yourself. Basic techniques. All players have base techniques that will allow fair role-punking on an even playing field. 5 in total. A flop, a suddenly, an interrupt, a time skip, and a close-in. A flop is when you use your turn to feed into your opponent's last action against you as a show of good sportsmanship. This also gives you a tiny bit of control over the narrative that's negatively affecting you. Whereas your opponent just uppercutted you, you would say how much it hurt, how many backflips you did, but at least you'll have some dignity when you land on your feet. A suddenly. A suddenly is when you counter any narrative, even if what you're countering with is not justified by your abilities, but you must have already performed a flop twice. A suddenly can only be performed once per duel. Those are two of the most common of the basic techniques. The following two are dependent on situations. An interrupt is what you'll use if a target's turn was more than 5 lines long in Discord. If it was that long, then you can freely interject somewhere in their narrative of your choosing and finish it with you achieving your goal instantly. It's an automatic win. A time skip. If the target does not respond within an hour, you automatically can achieve your goal. And lastly, and the one that will be used to most because it is what is needed to win, is the close-in technique. Closing in is what you'll call first when you believe there is no way your target can narratively avoid your turn action, but use this at your own risk. The target of a close-in must counter-close for a win. Counter-closing is just like closing in. It's you writing something that you don't think they'll be able to escape, but you have to make sure they can't escape it or they'll counter-close. If the defense successfully counter-closes, then they overcome and achieve their goal to win. Closing in on a person spirals quickly into death blows, so don't initiate until you set up and are supported by your narrative. If your target cannot write their way out of your close-in, then they must write narrative showing that they surrender and then give you the last action. Director techniques. Players will have special director techniques that can be used if specific narrative conditions are met. These techs are meant to turn the tables and end the duel. An example of a director tech would be one that declares that if your opponent goes first, you get an extra suddenly technique at your disposal. Now with an additional option to block your narrative, your opponent already has the advantage, an early and easy mistake to make if you do not know your opponent's techniques. Director techniques will make you unique and a force to be reckoned with as you're able to manipulate rules depending on what they are. They can only be earned by having your Flames of Creation lore submissions selected. Director techniques will be limited and are first come first serve. So that means some of you will only have unique and exclusive director techs. Players will need to get familiar with your character in order to know how not to trigger your techniques. Your techniques will be visible on your profile. Judges and disputes. A dispute is when another player disagrees with the other's actions. Maybe they feel that they aren't justified. If a dispute occurs, it is taken to the RolePunk Court of Public Opinion, and then 2 judges make the final ruling. If both judges can't agree, then they contact myself and I'll move the needle. If you lose in court, you are sentenced to X amount of time on the revoked dispute rights list. While on this list, you lose disputing rights. The sentence length is determined by the people based on how reasonable your case was. Be a good sport, go with the flow, and choose your court battles. Sometimes they aren't worth it. Losing a court battle has consequences, whereas losing a RolePunk match has none. Both judges are determined by the people and are elected for their good judgment, and elections are the first Monday of every month. Rewards. There are several reward types. Archive rewards. If the archivist sees role-playing that they like, the archivist will write a short story of your escapades and turn it into canon. Lore passes. If I catch a member playing their role, I will give them a lore pass, a password that you can take to the pndrpg.com site and use to submit any kind of lore you want to become canon. Good for when you have those lore ideas that you just want to fire off. District Event Pass. A district event pass is rewarded to players who are being positive and just great members of the community. It's a password needed to enter into district events. Occasionally, locked events will appear in district rooms. The event pass allows you to enter solo or collab with up to 5 friends you invite on a mini story about your escapades and the outcome of them. This then becomes canonized. My intention is to make a simple role-playing game that can be taken further competitively when fueled by creativity. as well as give you something to do in between the episodes. We'll iron out any wrinkles as we approach them. I hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, let me know.